A lot of people be asking me, why did I decide to follow God? And I'm gonna tell you why. Yo, I follow God cause he bringing out the best in me. Yeah. And plus I'm trying to rest in peace before I rest in peace. He giving life, I'm making sure there ain't no
What's up, fam? Welcome back to the Time is Ripe podcast. My name is Scott Smith, and I am your host here on the Time is Ripe. This is a podcast of Ripe Creatives, which is a ministry based in the great city of Philadelphia that leverages the arts for the purpose of missions. Here on this podcast, we go back in time. It's basically like a digital journal. It's like an audio diary of Ripe Creatives. And we go back to specific dates and time to talk about what happened and what was going on and who was a part of it and how God moved and all those kinds of things. Today, we have a really, really special episode. And it's crazy. This is our first time doing an episode about one of these dates because we've been doing this for a long time. But the date we're going to be talking about is August 27th, 2024. We were at a place called Venice Island Performing Arts Center in Philadelphia in the neighborhood of Manayunk. And we were outside doing a thing called Creatives Pier. Creatives Pier is our outdoor open mic. It's something we've been doing for a really long time. You'll hear all about this on today's episode. But here to talk about this thing, I can't believe this is the first time we're ever doing this. I have a couple of guests. One of them has been on so many episodes, and he's a part of the Creatives team. He helps run the whole show. Mr. Jarrett Moses, welcome back to the pod.
It's been a hot minute since I've been on one of these, so I'm happy. You know, I'm always like ready to talk about a Creatives event, so here I am. Also, if the weather had been different, this wouldn't have been the first Pier episode, because the episode where we had Eves on the one time, that was supposed to be Pier, but because of the weather, we went inside.
Oh my gosh, you're right. 2021 summer, right? 2022 summer?
That was our second year.
Yeah, it was 2022 summer. Yeah. So season 1, it was like episode 3 of this whole podcast would have been a Pier.
It would have.
But it wasn't. It was a Creatives Cafe.
R.I.P.
Listen, we'll be talking about this whole Pier thing and cafe and all these things. You're going to understand. I promise we'll break it down. But Jarrett Topmop Productions, the man, the myth, the legend, he's the one who puts this whole podcast together and does all the things. If you need anything, call him. Except probably a hitman or something. Don't call him for that.
If you want it to look or sound good, call me.
Yeah, look good, sound good, call that guy. We have another guest. Oh, man, I'm so excited. Woo. This is a first-time guest on this podcast, which is a sin that it is his first time on this podcast because he has been a massive, massive, massive part of our community in so many different ways. But specifically talking about August 27th, you'll understand why he's here for this specifically. But first-time guest on the pod, Michael Weatherbe, welcome to the Time is Right.
How you doing, guys? Yeah. This is good. This is good. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm a big fan of the podcast, not gonna lie. I'm just glad to be here.
Dude, we're super excited to have you. Michael, even though everybody in our community knows you very, very, very well, there's people listening that may not know who you are. So we ask all of our first-time guests to just give a little bit of an intro of who they are. And then if you can blend that story and to how you connected to Ripe, that would be amazing.
Yeah, definitely. So I would define myself as, first and foremost, son of God for sure. But something I would definitely say is I'm married to my beautiful wife, Olivia. And I'm also currently a teacher. Which is kind of crazy to think about. In Ripe specifically, I'm a part of the worship team. I play bass, and I do a little bit of drums. And also for the Creatives team, I've been a part of we had so many different things, incognito team and the prayer team. And now officially I am the host of the Ripe Open Mics, which is kind of crazy.
Creatives crazy. Philly Open Mic.
This guy's had more jobs on the Creatives team than anyone else, I think.
Well, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, he's had like 7 jobs. I mean, there were definitely nights where Mike walked in intending to do one thing, and then our bassist dropped out, and Mike had to play bass. Yeah, and he wasn't even coming with his bass. I know that there were creatives that you went home to grab your bass to play bass during the night of the event. Yeah. Mike is amazing. Mike has been a part of the creatives team for, I think, 3, 4, 5 years now, 4 years or so. You've been coming to the events even longer.
There was a period of time where I was security. You needed me to be security one night. I never forget that.
When were you security?
I was security so it was a creatives. I never forget it. I think it was a creatives where we had someone do stand-up comedy that night.
Jeffrey Hughes.
Yes, Jeffrey Hughes. He did stand-up comedy that night. And specifically, for some reason, the guy that's usually there to watch over the place wasn't there. And you were like, hey, Mike, we need you to be security. And I was like, okay. So I will never forget that. So
yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
The way you said that made it sound like we needed security because of Jeff.
Yeah, that was framed really amazing. Jeffrey Hughes, I hope you're listening.
Yes.
Miss you, bud. Mike has done a lot of jobs within the creatives team. But yeah, as you alluded to, or as you said, that you're the host now. I have been the host of Creatives Philly as the MC. It's one of my biggest passions is actually hosting and curating events and being an MC at events. But something that I have felt since my baby boy was born, shout out to Levi, is Dar or I have to step back from functionally leading creatives, because we have a kid that we need to care for during the event. And kind of at the same time realizing Creatives Philly events, though are successful in the sense of the fruit, have not been very successful in terms of the finances. We lose quite a bit of money on every creatives event that we throw. And part of that is my fault because I don't want things to be bad. And I want to make sure that we honor people and do things with high integrity in the way that we handle our finances. And so we pay a lot of people, not a lot of money, but we pay a lot of people a little bit of money, which becomes a lot of money to be able to do them successfully. And so with that, I kind of felt like, man, if I could pull off of hosting and curating and emceeing the night and really sit with potential donors and say, hey, can I answer any questions you have about this night? And ask people to partner with the ministry, and support it. I think that that's going to be the best thing for Creatives Philly events moving forward. And so, yeah, it was a hard decision, honestly, but the right decision. And when we were talking about, man, who are we going to have host Creatives Philly? Shout out to Greg Snow. He's a great MC curator as well. But he already hosts Two Lines. I did not want Creatives Philly to be hosted by the same person who hosts Two Lines because I want them to be distinct. They already overlap a lot. And so we kind of were wrestling through like who could really do this? And my heart was, I felt like it really needed to be somebody in our community. And I just kind of was like, you know what? I think Mike can do this. I really think he can. And we even overlapped from an MC standpoint years ago because I used to work at a missions organization. I used to MC and host that. And when I left, you took over that responsibility there. And so I was kind of like, you know what? I think Mike could do this. And you did it on July 23rd, 2024 is your first time ever.
First time ever.
And you killed it, Mike.
Yeah.
You did an amazing job.
I was nervous. I'll tell you that.
He's in there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
I was nervous for sure. But yeah, I mean, yeah, all glory to God. That was crazy.
Yeah, you did a fantastic, for having never done it before. And we even kind of, I was kind of like, it was like hosting with a leash a little bit. I was like, Mike, I'm going to be here. I'll do these parts. You do these parts. If I need to step in, if I need to introduce somebody, if I need to like curtail something, I'll do that. I think I ended up actually doing less than what we agreed that I was going to do.
Yeah.
Because you're doing such a good job even in the middle of the night. I was like, nah, you got that. You got the clothes. You got this. You got that. And I think we'll continue to work out a really good system together. But for your first night, I was blown away. I remember Darlene, she had Levi. When I got home, she was like, Mike did so well. He did so much better than I thought he was going to do.
Wow.
And that wasn't like a knock on you being able to be great at it, but just it was your first time ever. And the peers are really like trial by fire.
Yes.
They're probably the most complicated event that we do. Because even our indoor open mic, there's other spaces that you can take artists to and have conversations with them. Outside, everybody's outside.
Yeah.
And anything can go wrong. Anybody's showing up. The police might drive by. Like, there's a lot to manage.
Definitely.
At the pier, and you did an amazing job. So we will talk about this specific event on August 27th, 2024. But really, we're just here to talk about Mike being amazing and how much we love him. It's been 3 years of him not being on podcast episodes. We're like, we got to come up with an excuse to get this man here.
It's taking forever, bro. There's been so many episodes where we're just like, oh, do you want to get Mike? It's like, we can't wait. We can't wait. We got to do it today. We can't wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, Mike could have been on a lot of these episodes that we've done over the first 3 seasons because he's a part of the Creatives team, so he could have basically been on any Creatives event.
Right.
And he's a part of Ripe Worship, which is a lot of our episodes have been about Ripe Worship gigs as well.
Yes.
But Mike, welcome to the pod for the first time, and we're glad you're here.
Yes. Thank you. And also, shout out to Darlene for sure, and Levi, baby Levi, my guy. Yeah.
He's the cutest.
Yeah, he is.
Jarrett, we've already bragged on Mike, and we've kind of alluded to what the pier is, but I would love for us to just kind of give a tad bit of the backstory, because it has been never talked about on this podcast, Creatives Pier.
Yeah.
In the sense of the vision for it. It came out of the pandemic.
Yeah, I was going to say this goes back to COVID. We were discussing, like, how do we transition out of the live streams that we were currently doing? How do we transition into doing in-person events again, where people will feel comfortable, where people won't feel stifled and at risk or whatever they could feel? And you and I just kept going back and forth trying to figure out ideas. And somehow we got to, like, well, what if we did it outside? And we're like, we don't know anywhere that's going to let us do it outside. And did you talk to Doc, or did you just drive by there?
No, Doc told me about it. Doc Hero, shout out to Doc Hero. He's a rap artist, guys. Doc Hero actually was the one who told me about it, because I floated it like, yo, we're trying to figure out how to do an outdoor event, but we have no idea how we're going to do this. And mind you, we didn't have equipment.
No, that first one was a hodgepodge and a mess. But we made it work.
So much stuff from so many different people to even do it. But Doc was like, yo, next to Venice Island, there's an outdoor amphitheater kind of looking space. I don't even know if they use it for events, but it looks dope. And I've always thought about doing something there. You should go ask. I go to Venice Island and I bring it up to them. And it was crazy because they were like, man, we've always wanted to use that space, but we never have. And I was like, can we be your guinea pig? Like, let us try and see if it works. And that's what started our relationship with Venice, was that they were willing to take a flyer on us, and we got to do something on their space in a way that, you know, it would have never happened otherwise. That relationship has gone so well that we've been there for 4 summers. This is our 4th summer.
Incredible.
Most of them, we've only done one event in the summer, but even still, just that is a crazy thought that we've been there for 4 straight years.
I can't believe it's been 4 years in general.
I mean,
like, how did that happen?
It's just a testament to, I guess, favor of good stewardship of how we've managed that relationship and how we've gone into it always wanting to do the best. And I think the fact that we did it the first year, and even though it was like a technical catastrophe, like it was a mess pulling it off, it still went better than anything they could have pulled off in their mind. And they were like, this was amazing. Thank you for showing us how to do this. Do it again.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, were you there that first summer? I mean, that was whenever we had those big boy subs. Remember,
those subs
at the
were
corner?
overkill. We had them like angled on the concrete step. Like I thought there was going to be like something where they just fell backwards.
Yes. It was ridiculous. We did not have a pipe and drape yet, because shout out to Namara. Namara hadn't donated that to us yet. We had nothing. We had no equipment.
Yeah.
We borrowed everything, but God provided. Yeah. And we were able to do it. And Venice has now, since then, actually thrown events outside in that space themselves, which I think is an amazing testament to the way that relationship has worked together. I just want to shout out Kelly, Steve, and Asher that are, at least as of this recording of this episode, if you listen to this years from now, it's possible it might be different people, but for us, it's been Kelly, Steve, Asher for the last few years. Amazing people.
Yeah, they are.
And so gracious and kind towards us. The relationship has grown so much to the fact that we do not only get the outdoor space, but they hold the indoor space, the indoor state-of-the-art theater at Venice Island as a backup plan for us in case of rain.
Yeah.
The first few summers, we had Venice. If it didn't rain, we'd be outside. But if it rained and we wanted to move in, we had to go find a new location. And so we held 2 different venues every time we did one of these outdoor open mics because there was a risk of rain.
Which that's exactly what we were talking about, where we almost had a Pier episode as our 3rd episode of the podcast. But because of the rain, we went inside. And that was back when we still had High Point, which was a mile up the hill, roughly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was really nice in the time. But since then, I think the first year that we didn't have that as an option, we asked them, like, hey, what would it take for us to be inside? And they were kind of like hemming and hawing, like, it's going to be hard to like pull it off. But then like maybe a week or so before, wasn't it like almost like right on the date, she gave the okay of like, all right, if you can't do it outside, you can do it inside.
Yeah, I don't even remember the intricacy of how that played out, but I just remember the yes being one of like, I don't know if this will work, but it's possible, to a year later them being like, yeah, of course, for whatever dates you're here, it's yours.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And we did an actual show at Venice Island in August of 2023.
Yeah, we did.
Where we did the event. It was intended to be outside. It did rain. We moved it inside. There was no air conditioning. It was kind of insane.
It was
but
it was worse than outside.
But it was a beautiful night.
It was a mess.
It was a great show, though.
It was
a
a very good night, and Mike's wife actually opened up the whole night.
Yeah, she did.
Olivia Weatherbe opened up the show, and now she's doing a whole bunch of other things as an artist, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
But God is super faithful to just over the long haul build great relationships. Just want to shout out Kelly, Steve, and Asher. You guys are amazing. We love y'all.
Thank you.
Let's talk about this specific event. I don't think we necessarily have to go into every single performance of the night, but we can highlight a few as we would like to. So yeah, outdoor open mic at Venice Island. Weather was perfect. Amazing weather.
Yes, beautiful.
The best of weathers.
That was the best outdoor one we've
had. That was
had.
the best weather we've ever had.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just realized that for sure in 4 years. Hands down the best weather we've ever had. Oh, and we got there in the city. Shout out to Parks and Rec. Cut the grass.
I was just about to say we didn't have to mow for once.
Yeah, they did cut the grass.
People don't know this, but I actually take a lawnmower with us to Venice Island to cut the grass usually. Because Parks, I guess it's a Parks and Rec or whatever company they hire to cut the grass doesn't usually cut it for us. But shout out to Kelly for making sure it was
hard,
cut.
You'll find Scott's mower hiding somewhere on the property.
Yeah, a lot of times my mower is hiding in a corner after we've just used it to cut the grass. But it's an open mic. Now, I will say this. It is not your average open mic.
Mm-mm.
Our open mics are dope. If you go back to season 2, our last episode of the year was about our December open mic with Jake Doggett and Robin Morales, Jarrett and I. Great episode. And both of them shared as outsiders, looking in at the open mic about how impactful it is.
Yes.
And a part of that is the excellence piece. It's because we have a live band. It's because we have the best DJ in all the land in DJ Angie. It's because we have Top Mop running sound, who's a professional sound engineer.
Yes.
It's because we have photo and video from people who really do photo and video.
Yes.
Right? All of those components make it really good. I think I was a halfway decent host as well. And then the artists that we pre-select in the incognitos are really dope.
Yeah.
What?
Halfway decent.
I'm just laughing. I'm like, you're at least three-quarter way decent.
Three-quarter way decent host.
Halfway. Yeah.
The incognitos are great, but also the people who come to our open mic are usually really great artists. Like we are a community of creatives and artists, so we attract artists and creatives. And so we have some really great people come to our shows. It makes for something that is very rare. It feels like a showcase, but it's an open mic.
Yeah.
It feels like you're going to a show at the Met or a show at the TLA or a show at one of these other venues where people have been pre-selected and planned a tour and brought all these artists in. But no, it's random people who just met that night.
Yes.
And I think that's very rare.
Yeah.
On this particular show, we had a major switch up happen the day before.
Yes.
Ashley Robin, love you, Ashley Robin, from New York City, was supposed to close out the show. She's a phenomenal artist. She got the flu right before the show. And so she was not able to come. And so it was like, what do we do? That was our closer. Yes. And we knew Ashley was going to kill it. We ended up moving the opening incognito to the end, and then we added Rashid St. Fleur to be an opener as a sacrificial lamb. Anytime you start a show with Rashid St. Fleur as a sacrifice,
he opens up a lot of the piers.
Yeah. Yes, he does.
He opened our very first one.
Yes, he did.
Very first one.
Yes, he did.
White T-shirt, blue LA Dodgers cap, Rashid St. Fleur. That was before he had a song out.
Yes.
Yeah. That's crazy.
He did a lot before he had a song out. Let's be honest.
Yeah, she was out here gigging. Yeah, he was gigging like a full-time artist without a single song on Spotify.
He gigged more than he did now.
Yo, leave him alone. He's in real estate. Let him be a real estate agent. We love you, Rashid.
Shout out Rashid. Shout out Rashid.
Thank you, Rashid, for being there. Rashid killed it. Then we had Jake Doggett.
Yes,
Shout out to Jake Doggett doing a brand new piece.
Amazing.
Then we had the young bull, the kid, Elijah.
Yes.
You got Rashid to come back.
Rashid came and actually accompanied him on guitar because he couldn't get his music situation together.
Yeah.
It was like clearly one of his first times really performing in front of a live crowd like that.
Yes.
But it was a beautiful moment. He was a teenager. He was like 17, 18 years old, getting a chance to perform. And then we had TC.
Yes.
Shout out to TC. Drove, I think it was 2 hours to be there.
Okay.
On a Tuesday night for an open mic.
From where?
My mind.
Like west side of the city, like way out past Easton.
Wow.
Maybe she was saying 2 hours total, but I know it was like a 2 hour. She was in the car for 2 hours. She had to come across, rush hour traffic. Hadn't been to Creatives since 2021. She showed me a photo of her at one of those Creatives Cafe, Creatives Piers.
Wow.
At High Point 3-4 years ago.
Yo, I just found the picture.
You found it? Oh,
I went to her
That's
Instagram.
it.
She's got it right back there. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
SD and Josh sitting there.
We had
SD and Josh played that night too.
Yeah, SD.
Which is kind of crazy.
November 2nd, 2021 is the one she played.
November 2nd. So it wasn't during the summer. It was November 2nd, 2021.
It was an actual...
Oh, wow. That was Namara's month. It was Say So. So Namara was October, and we had Say So.
Yep.
We had the open mic and then Say So at the end of the month. John Bowles.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because we had an open mic in between those like 3-4 concerts with Joy Ike and Matthew Schuler and all them. That's the one she came to.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Kozer would have been in January with Ice Cream Time. It's canon if you've been around for a long time. But yeah, so amazing that she came back after all these years. She had a lot to say to my wife and I, and ended up even supporting Ripe Creatives that night in a really big way, which was amazing and just super meaningful. And then we had a self-love poet who's a regular at Two Lines Poetry Open Mic. And then we had Benson, the four-piece.
Yes.
I've been wanting Benson to come out to Creatives for a long time.
I think you've been pitching it to them, right?
I'd been pitching it to them. I was hitting you up like, yo, hit them up, get them as a feature. They'll be killer. I felt bad because the one time they come out, it was right before halftime for the night. And I get a text from Ant right after their song that like the wedge is messing up and the cable was like dying or something. And I had to make a quick swap during halftime. And they kept motioning, or like someone kept like looking at the wedge and looking at me. And I was like, I am so sorry that happened crazy. On your set.
Yeah. I'll tell you a funny story real quick about Benson. While I'm on the stage and hosting, of course, no one told me that Benson was a group.
Yo, so, I remember that.
Yes. So when I called Benson, I'm thinking it's the guy with the guitar. And I'm like, oh, Benson. Oh, and there's 3 more of you. Oh, let's give it up for Benson. But it wasn't in a way of like, like I could have been like, let's give it up for Benson. And literally in my head, I was thinking, let's give it up for Benson and his group. That's literally what I was going to say. But good thing I didn't. Good thing I didn't, because, yeah, that would have been crazy. But
You did great, man.
Yeah.
You want to know something funny? And this might get cut out. We met, I think, their mom years ago at Jubilee. When Ripe went and did the service for Jubilee at that one church, when it was after we did the recording, we go there. It was a small team. I don't think you were there, Mike.
Okay.
We go into the church and they're like, oh yeah, we got food for you guys in the basement. They take us down. We get caught in a conversation with a couple people, and the open mic and just other artistry stuff comes up, and this one woman is talking to us and she's like, oh yeah, my kids are like starting to do some music and stuff. You might have heard of them. And she like told me their name. I found them on Instagram and it was Benson. And then I forgot about them for like a year, and they showed up at a different open mic that I was helping out with at the time. And I actually like connected with them there, and it finally clicked in my head who they were. And now they finally made it to Pier.
Yeah, I actually met Mama Marsh a long time ago because I used to lead a Bible study for Penn State, Abington.
Yeah.
And it was on Wednesday nights at their house.
Yeah.
So I actually been at the Marsh's house like a long time ago. But I remember reconnecting with her at that Jubilee thing because Jubilee was in Philly because it was the pandemic still.
Yep.
But it wasn't, I guess, as much of the pandemic.
It was
the 2021.
Yeah, they did 2 years in a row streaming it.
Yep. So shout out to Mama Marsh. Shout out to the Benson crew. They absolutely killed it. Then we had
Killer harmonies.
our second incognito feature, which was Basil. Basil's first time at Creatives.
Yeah, he did amazing. Really good job. And Rashid, again,
Rashid
on
again.
the stage.
Rashid on stage for the fourth time tonight.
The man who hates going up and playing.
Yes.
Plays 3 times in one night.
3 times. Yeah. But yeah, he did incredible. Like really, he was really, really good. And I believe he has a song out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he had a couple songs out. Demir and Abel had both said like Basil's stuff is so good.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's been a desire to have him come for a long time.
Yes.
And the open mic is like the easiest space to get somebody that maybe doesn't have the catalog for like a concert.
Yes.
But it still has a gift and a calling to do this.
Yes.
And can we get them plugged in as an incognito? And so Basil was like a perfect fit for the night.
Yeah, he did. Amazing.
And it was right before the intermission, right before we pulled the names for the second half. And just like a really good moment.
Yeah.
His vocal chops are crazy.
Yeah.
And then after, in the second half, just want to highlight a couple people really quick because could be here all day.
Right.
T Sleeveless was actually on this show.
Yeah, T Sleeveless.
The person that we just talked about in our last episode.
Yeah.
At Two Lines came back to this. He was there. He performed on it. Amazing poet.
He did amazing.
And then we had Summer.
Yes.
On violin and rapping and singer.
Right, but we can't just go in. We got to explain the situation on how Summer got on the stage because we had technical difficulties.
Oh, right. We had to skip ahead and then jump
originally
back.
it was supposed to be
That Boy Good.
Yeah, That
Boy Good.
Supposed to be
Dan Good.
And that kind of put me in that situation where I had to,
learn on the
fill
fly.
up some time. Yeah, fill up some time. But Summer, she did amazing. Yeah, and like every single time I see her, because she's a good friend of mine. Shout out to you, Summer. Every single time I see her, I still like just in shock every single time. Because it's just the talent that she has. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. So
she killed it.
Yeah, she killed it. She did a really good job. But yeah, she usually goes on tour with like a lot of bigger artists or orchestrate bands. But yeah, she's really talented. Really talented.
Yeah, she is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Shout out to Summer. Thank you for coming out on a Tuesday night.
Yes.
To Creatives Pier. I mean, she's a perfect example of like you just don't know who you're gonna get.
Yes.
Sometimes we know who we're going to get from an incognito standpoint because we pre-selected them.
Yes.
Sometimes even on the open mic, you'll get somebody like her that really does this.
Yes.
T Sleeveless really does this.
Yes.
Right? A lot of these artists have toyed with or are full-time artists. Synovia really does this.
Yes.
Synovia's been on our open mic 80% of the shows that we've done.
And has literally done pretty much everything. I think dance, sing, rap.
Yeah, she's done it all.
Yeah.
So we've been like extremely blessed to have a very high, I guess the word is like ceiling in terms of the artists that perform.
And performances, yes, for sure.
So after her is Dan Good.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dan Good.
He did good too.
He just featured at the County John. What'd you say?
I said Dan did good. Dan good.
Dan did good.
Yeah.
Dan did good.
He did good.
Dan is amazing. Dan just did the County John down at the Ardmore Music Hall. Amazing artist.
Yes.
Amazing artist.
Yes.
Like fantastic Philly-based guy.
Yes.
He's actually worked a lot with Synovia on some music and stuff. Just super tough. There's a couple more. We could spend all night on this, but I do want to get to the closing feature.
Yes.
The closing incognito feature. It was supposed to be Ashley Robin. Ashley Robin gets the flu. The opening incognito that got pushed to the end was none other than Craig Watson.
Craig Watson. Shout out to Craig, man. Shout out to Craig.
Craig Watson, he was just on the episode about Agape Fest with us.
He was.
In terms of the story of going out there with Demir. Craig is 18 years old as of the recording of this episode. And, who knows how old he is by the time you listen to it. But Craig's 18, amazing artist. His story is so unique because we shared about it a little bit on the Agape Fest episode, but he came to Creatives 4 years ago.
Back to full circle. That was the episode that we were just talking about. It was supposed to be an outdoor episode, went inside, the one with Eves. That's episode was show. About the event that he opened for. So we were about to have him open again, and we swapped it up and put him in at the closing feature.
Yep. So he
this
was
is wild.
Yeah, he opened in 2021. The same night that Eves was on, the same night that there was a bunch of people on that show that all connected that night. That night was like iconic.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the night that led to Eves, pursuing her music in a different way.
Yeah.
At the time, and then joining Ripe Artists and being a part of Ripe Artists for the next few years.
Yeah.
Eves now is married and rocking out, with their church and doing a whole bunch of worship stuff, and her business is taking off. So she hasn't been as much of an active artist in our community, but that night was really impactful for her next couple of years. And Craig in particular, like, that was a part of how God was moving in his life to eventually lead him into relationship with Jesus. And basically, like, it's a part of his testimony was that night.
Every time he tells his testimony, Creatives is in there.
Yeah.
Every single time.
So Craig would have opened again for us at Pier, which still would have been amazing. But when Ashley got the flu, it was like, you know what? Let's let Craig close this thing out. It was perfecto.
Yes.
One more crucial thing about that night that Craig was here first, I think that's the night we met Jake, our keys player now.
Jake Hernandez.
Yeah, because he and his sister came.
And
he did an original song, and I think that was the first night he came to Creatives.
Yep. Shout out to Jake Hernandez. He's on the keys. Shout out to the whole band. Jason Weatherbe, Mike's little brother, is usually the drummer.
Yes.
This particular night in August was Joshua Schaefer, brought the OG back for one night. Yeah. We usually get him for like one date a year. Yes. Love you, Josh.
He made time in his schedule for us.
He did. We love you, Josh. Shafe Daddy Flex.
Yes.
And also Jake Hernandez on keys, and then also Gabi Carrion on bass.
Boy's
Gabi's a nasty bassist. And then finally Esteban Nieves, who is our MD, our music director. Them
together.
Yeah.
The man who pulls it all together. So the band was fantastic. Shout out to Jake Hernandez. Yes. That's really how we met him too. What a night, guys. Listen, August 27th was amazing. Craig Watson's set. I just want to focus on that for a little bit.
Yes,
Sorry, I've been rambling to get us to this point. But what do you guys remember about Craig Watson?
First and foremost, his stage presence is super impressive for the age that he is. Like, I don't think I can name a lot of maybe I can't name another 18-year-old that I know that has the stage presence of Craig Watson. That is like that good. It's pretty insane. Like the way he does this, it seems like he's been doing this for like decades. Like, So, definitely shout out to Craig for that. Just the way that he's able to, present himself on the stage. But yeah, a lot of people are talented, but they're not actually good with stage presence. And I feel like Craig, the fact that he's that young and is able to do that is pretty amazing. Yeah.
Part of that is crowd participation. Not downplaying anything about Craig, but you also set him up for success. Something we've started doing at the Piers, especially towards the end, if we have like a hip hop performance, which we have the past two. It was ARAM in July, Craig in August. Whoever's hosting, which for this one, you were the whole way through, Mike. You set him up for success by getting the audience like, yo, everyone, please get up, come to the front so he can interact and we can like kill it as the ending of this night. And them coming up, he feels their energy, they feel his energy, and they just keep building off each other. Right. So props to you for like helping him get that spot going.
Yeah, you set him up for success.
Yeah.
Right. And all those things are a part of what makes creatives good. Yeah. Right. It's like we are putting artists in position to have a moment that could be so like powerful that it changes how they do music, changes how they view themselves as an artist. It changes how other people view them as an artist because of the way that we try to set them up. And that's been our story time and time again, is people have been like, oh my gosh, I can do this.
Yes.
Because of my experience tonight at Creatives. And I think Craig is like one of those full circle testimonies of like, man, he owned it. Like it was his show.
No, legit.
At the end of the night, it was like a Craig Watson show.
Yes.
And I felt so proud of him.
Yes.
And the band even like getting the tracks ahead of time, and Ant knowing what he was doing with all that stuff. Like it sounded like it was his concert.
Yes. No, legit.
Even though it was at the end of an open mic outside of Venice Island where 15 other people had just performed right before him as open micers. It was a really good moment.
Yeah.
Props in a different way to Craig in approaching this so professionally and taking it so seriously.
Yes.
Yes, he has great stage presence, but even the beforehand effort and work of you hitting him up like, hey, do you want to do the incognito feature? Cool. And that could have just been the end of the conversation. But then he's like, hey, how can I help make this better? Like, is there anything that could make this better for the night for me to do for you guys? And he brought friends. He even had someone bring him who ended up staying for the whole show.
Yeah.
He got the tracks beforehand. He got what the band needed to be able to like listen to whatever they wanted beforehand.
Right.
Like he puts in the effort because he knows that it's going to take a lot of effort. So he's trying to give it where he can.
Yeah.
He's hungry.
His humility.
Yeah.
I think it's just crazy to me again. Because like for him to be that talented, but also be as humble as he is as well. It's just like, it's just crazy.
Yes.
And he's young. Like, I'm just thinking,
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm very, 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 I've been telling people since really the FOF episode in season 2, like at the time he was going by the name Unwanted. Thank God he dropped that name because that's not what he is. He is wanted by the Lord, right?
Yeah.
He's desired. The Lord loves him, wants to have a relationship with him, and now does.
Yes.
So dropping that moniker of I'm unwanted, I think is amazing, and is indicative of like a spiritual transformation that's happened in him.
Yes.
But even then, as unwanted, I said, I think this kid's story could go either direction. It could be, I think he's talented enough to be like one of the biggest names in hip hop.
I believe that.
In Christian hip hop in general, like genuinely. I think he's that.
I believe that.
Good. But he has to work at it. He's not there right now.
Yeah.
But I'm saying as an 18-year-old kid to be where he is, if he puts the work in, if he handles things with professionalism and good communication skills, if he does things with honor and humility and integrity, if he has the right people around him, encouraging him and mentoring him through it, I think he could literally be one of the biggest artists in the country. I'll stand by that.
I will say biggest artist in the world.
Yes. I will stand by that until it doesn't happen. And there will be reasons if it doesn't happen, but it will not be because he doesn't have it.
Yes.
Yeah. Because he does.
Shout out Craig.
Shout out to Craig. And shout out to Jarrett, Top Mop Productions, putting subwoofers There's speakers here. There's speakers there.
There's speakers everywhere.
Shout out to the promo videos.
Yeah, we need another one soon, guys.
I need to make another one. I made those when we were on a trip together, Mike. We were out doing a gig with our aforementioned friend Esteban. Esteban.
Yes.
Good times. Yeah, I think it's just been a really good year for creatives. We've been doing this for a long, long time. We've done a bunch of episodes about Creatives Philly. It's one of the things we're most passionate about.
Yes.
Because it's our most consistent platform outside of Two Lines. We do a lot of gigs over the course of the calendar year, but they're rhythmic. They're once a year. They're 5 times a year.
Yeah.
They're not 12 times a year, right? You're not going to do the same gig 12 times. And so, Creatives is something that we are telling a story that's ever evolving. And I think for us, it's so encouraging to see the fruit of connectivity from night to night. Mike, I just want to end with you as somebody who has apparently been security. You've been a part of the intercessor team. You've been a part of the hospitality team. You've been a part of the Ripe table team. You've prayed over people. You have
played over people.
You've played bass.
Yeah.
Now your 7th job, according to my hands, as I've been counting on my fingers saying that. Your 7th job, you're the MC, the host of Creatives Philly. What does that feel like for you? Like, how is that what was that experience like these first couple piers?
For sure. It was good. It was a really good experience, for sure. But I feel like I'm not at a point where I'm like, satisfied or feel like, I'm the MC yet, if that makes sense. I've definitely learned so much from you, specifically Scott, seeing how, you operate. And even back to those days when we were working for that mission organization, just looking up to you and, just seeing how, you were on stage, your stage presence, the way that you worded things, vocabulary and everything. Thinking about vocabulary because I kept saying, on tonight. Just going back to there. Shout out Esteban. But yeah, just those different things, and even, beforehand, if people didn't know, I had a lot of opportunities, shout out my parents for, and being in places where I would speak and preach and MC as well. That kind of prepared me for, those upcoming, events. So yeah, I would just definitely say, yeah, it was definitely an amazing experience, but I don't feel like I'm where I want to be just yet. There's definitely, more opportunities that will come. And I'm excited for that and I'm ready to grow.
Listen, bro, you've only done 2, technically more like 1.5. You're gonna be doing a lot more. And honestly, I feel like it doesn't really set in with like your place in creatives until you've done one inside and outside. And right now you've only done the ones outside.
Yeah.
Because like as soon as you start going to the inside ones, that's more of where creatives almost feels like a permanent space.
Yeah.
Because that's just where we're historically, like all our events are inside somewhere.
Yeah.
And the outside ones, they're so much more informal and like we said, trial by fire and not knowing what you're going to get. Once we get inside and you get one that feels like a historical night, like you're going to feel solidified. We already feel like you're solidified, but it's going to feel like it to yourself.
Yeah, right. I definitely threw him to the wolves. Like to start with the open mic instead of like a concert or a gallery. But it's also, my baby came right before Piers. And I was like, the baby's here June 25th, July 23rd. Michael, you're up. Like, I was like, just do it, And I think like, yeah, and it might be a thing where we figure out blends and we figure out ways to do it together in certain areas or in certain ways. Like if I need to do a spiel about Ripe Creatives and how people can support it, I probably should do that because I have the best understanding of why that's important and how that can be done.
Yeah.
But I want to like just see you continue to grow and take it on. Like I think the goal in ministry is always duplication, right? Multiplication of what you carry and what you've been walking out, seeing that take root in other people's lives, that they start to step up. And then it's not so that you can become lazy. It's so that you can refocus on raising up the next thing.
Yeah.
And I think for Ripe to survive, I have to get into that mode of, man, I shouldn't be the person on stage every time. I really shouldn't even be the person on this mic all the time. Yeah. You know, I mean, this would be hard to give up the vernacular of time is right. I think that would be a little bit harder to give over to one of these knuckleheads. But in terms of the event itself and how it ran, dude, it will take on a whole different flavor with you. And I have every belief that in the same way that Luis Moreira, Voices and Power, shout out to Luis, gave it over to Javon, it took time. Luis is an amazing host. Javon is way better than Luis, and Luis would attest to that. It wasn't immediate, though. Javon was not better than Luis week 1, month 2. Probably wasn't even for like the first 6-8 months.
Right.
But eventually, Javon's floor was so high that he became one of the best hosts in the city. I think like you can become that.
Right.
For sure. Because it's in your personality. You love people well. You have an attentive heart to the spirit. Yeah. All the things that make a great host in our space, you have.
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate that for sure. But it'll just come with time. It'll come with time. So.
Amen. Shout out to the best sound guy in all the land.
Oh, for sure.
Top Mop Productions.
Top Mop Productions.
You bum. Thank you guys for tuning in. I just want to create one last little space, and then we'll wrap things up. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Hopefully it's been meaningful. We were excited about how these things have gone over the summer of 2024. But any just like things that happened at that event beyond just Craig, I mean, I think that's where we focused a lot of our attention, maybe even beyond the performers, but just in general, anybody you interacted with, or like a moment that happened that you think is worth sharing.
I mean, it was a good night for me just to be in something that was going well, because that was coming out of a very frustrating weekend for myself, with my window getting smashed and like a couple $100 worth of equipment being stolen out of my car.
Yeah.
It was nice to like have something that just went well, and it got pulled off, and I got to do it with people I love.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, biggest shout out is definitely to Joshua Schaefer, being able to see him, because it's been a long time, and he's don't want to get too much into it, but he's a big reason of why I'm a part of Ripe Creatives, and why I'm able to do a lot of things that I'm able to do today. Shout out to Josh, Nay, and the rest of their family.
Yeah, shout out to Josh Schaefer, Shape Daddy Flex. If you ever want to deep dive into Ripe Canon, there's a different podcast called Coming a Ripe that was hosted on a different channel.
Yes.
With myself, Josh,
that was good too.
Dan Jaffe. It's a great time. Yeah.
I went back and listened to that, and it was a fever dream.
It's something. Shout out to Joshua Shaver. We love him so much. Josh has meant so much to our community.
Yes.
But Mike, please hear it. Like, I think, hopefully Craig is encouraged by this. Hopefully you're encouraged by this, that the night went super well. But we really were just trying to come up with an excuse to have you on the podcast because of how much you mean to our community. You're a part of so many things that have made Ripe what it's become. I just want to credit you with even like the culture of prayer in our community. Like, hey guys, it's our responsibility to pray for each other whenever we go out on gigs. So many times I've heard stories of people on gigs getting a call from you to just check on them and pray for them when they're halfway across the country. Like people are like, man, Mike called me and made sure that I got prayer before I hit that stage.
That's wild.
So I just like, you're the real deal. I've known that for a long time. Obviously, that's why I begged your dad to let you come be an intern with me, 7-8 years ago. But super proud of you, man. Like, just the man that you are, the husband you are, the employee you are of your school, the instructor and educator you are. But you have a ton of just creative and spiritual gifts to offer our community. And like, it's super humbling that you would give some of that time and energy to this thing that God's building. So thank you. Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what to say. I was speechless, kinda. But yeah, thank the Lord.
Love you, dude.
Love you too.
You're literally an answer to a underlying prayer that Ripe's had for a little bit, because this whole thing's been something Scott's talked about for a while. And honestly, every time he brought it up, I'm like, I don't know who could do it, man. I really don't know like who would actually fit. And you're a perfect fit. I know you still feel rough in there, but like you're like filling the spot great.
Thank you.
Yeah. I knew that this had to happen, and you were here all along. It just was like, all right, let's get to the point of where there's no more excuses. You got to step up, and you did beautifully. And I think the cool thing is God has blessed our team with more people around the team so that you could step out of some other things you've been doing. Shout
out to Simone and Olivia.
Sure. Shout out to them. Shout out to Gabi as well. Stepping in and being the basis for the summer months. So, just very, very thankful for the ways God is providing and making things happen. One thing you will notice here on the Time is Ripe, we have a lot of really wonderful people that do a lot of really wonderful things. The one thing we don't have a lot of is resources to do the things that we do. And so part of this podcast is we want to say thank you to people who do support us already. We want to honor you and say this is how we're stewarding your resources, as throwing events where people like Craig Watson can go from being unwanted to being a child of God that's making a difference in the world through their art. But it's also, a place where we are growing and developing in our gifts. Where we're stepping up and we're learning how to do things we didn't know how to do before, like Mike's story with becoming the host and MC of Creatives Philly. So all of these things are making an impact in the kingdom that pays dividends throughout churches in our city, throughout ministries in our city, throughout, different things that are happening all around the city, outreaches, conferences, retreats. So much is taking place through the ministry of Ripe Creatives. But we do need your support. And so if you partner with us, thank you for being a part of that. If you don't, we'd highly encourage you to jump on our website, ripecreatives.com, click the give button, consider becoming a monthly partner to support what we do so that we can tell more stories like this. We love y'all. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to today's episode. And until next time, y'all, stay right.
Yeah, God got at me, he gon' ride with me, I ain't gon' fall. God got at me, he gon' ride with me, I ain't gon' fall. God got at me, he gon' ride with me, I ain't gon' fall. Cold memories turn to gold memories. Cold memories turn to gold memories.